The last time they saw Adanna, she was barefoot, crying, and being chased out of the compound. Today she came back in a convoy, with bodyguards, gold on her wrists, and a smile that said someone was going to beg before sunset. Years ago, Adanna's life changed in a single afternoon. Her mother had died suddenly, one day laughing in the kitchen, the next day gone to a fever that swept through her like wildfire. Her father remarried within months. The new wife, Mama Chioma, was beautiful, with skin that glowed and a smile that never touched her eyes. Those eyes followed Adanna everywhere, not like a mother but like a predator waiting for the right moment. At first it was small things. Food served late or forgotten. Clothes accidentally burned while washing. Doors locked at night while she was still outside. When Adanna complained, her father brushed it off. "She's your mother now, respect her," he'd say without looking up from his meal. She learned quickly, he didn't see it or he chose not to. By 13, the punishments became bolder. One morning, after another argument about chores, her stepmother dragged her into the yard, threw a small bundle of clothes at her feet, and spat the words that would stay with her forever. "Go to your mother's people. Go and suffer there. Don't ever come back." Her father stood at the doorway, one hand on the frame, watching silently as she walked away. She didn't cry until she reached the village road. The city was not a welcome escape. Her distant aunt took her in with a frown, muttering that she was just another mouth to feed. Adanna worked like a servant, fetching water, cooking, cleaning, and still being blamed when things went wrong. But the market became her teacher. Selling vegetables for her aunt taught her how to bargain, how to read the truth in a person's eyes, and how to spot opportunities in the smallest corners. One day she met Mrs. Obioma, a businesswoman with sharp eyes and a calm voice. She noticed the speed in Adanna's hands as she counted change. "You're quick," she said. "Come work for me." That decision changed everything. At the salon and boutique Mrs. Obioma owned, Adanna learned about business, negotiation, and control. She saved every naira, lived simply, and built connections. By 18 she had her own small room. By 21 her own market stall. By 27 she owned a boutique, drove a car, and had the kind of money her stepmother could never imagine. And then came the phone call. "Your father is sick," a neighbor's voice said. "He's been asking for you." 10 years had passed since she left, but she decided to return. Not to reconcile. Not to forgive. She was coming back for everything they had denied her. As her convoy stopped in the village square, her eyes locked on Mama Chioma standing at the compound gate. The older woman froze, the basket in her hands slipping to the ground. And in that tense silence, Adanna smiled, a slow, deliberate smile that said she hadn't come home to visit, she had come to collect. The basket hit the ground. Tomatoes rolled across the dust. Mama Chioma didn't move to pick them up. She was staring at Adanna like she'd seen a ghost that had come back wearing gold. Adanna's heels clicked against the hard earth as she walked toward the gate. The crowd's murmurs followed her like a shadow. "My daughter, you came back," Mama Chioma said, her voice too sweet to be real. "Good afternoon, Mama Chioma," Adanna replied. Her tone was polite, but stripped of warmth. She stepped inside. The yard was smaller than she remembered. The mango tree still stood, its leaves casting shade over the same cracked low table she had once been too scared to sit at without permission. The wall still bore the long crack from the rainy season years ago. Even the kitchen door was the same, only now the wood looked more tired, just like the woman standing in front of her. In the inner room, her father lay on a bamboo bed, the years having carved deep lines into his face. His frame was thin, his cheeks hollow, but his eyes lit up at the sight of her. "My child," he whispered, his voice breaking. Adanna walked over and took his hand. His skin felt warm but weak. "You've done well," he said. "I had to," she answered softly. "No one was going to do it for me." He closed his eyes for a moment as if gathering courage. "I should have protected you," he said. "I didn't." Before she could respond, the door creaked and Mama Chioma walked in with a bowl of steaming pap. "He needs rest," she said firmly, setting the tray down. "I will speak with him later," Adanna replied without looking at her. Her father ate slowly. She steadied the bowl in his trembling hands. When he was done, she helped him outside to sit under the mango tree. The breeze there carried faint sounds from the village, the pound of yam in a mortar, the shrill laughter of children, and somewhere far off, the beat of a talking drum. "Before you left," her father began, "there were things I didn't tell you." He rubbed his knees slowly, his eyes avoiding hers. "I heard voices outside near the kitchen that night. Your stepmother, and a man. They were talking about you. They said you could not stay here. That if you did, trouble would find us. They mentioned a name. What name? Adanna asked. Obioma, he said. The name settled between them like a stone dropped into still water. Adanna knew it well, a trader from town known for his wealth, influence, and debts that broke families. Before she could ask why Obioma had spoken about her, footsteps approached from the kitchen. Mama Chioma's voice was low but urgent. She must not find out the truth, not now. Not ever. Then came a man's voice, deep and unshaken. Then keep her away from the past, or we both lose everything. Adanna's eyes narrowed. Whatever they were hiding, it was connected to her. And now she was going to dig it out, piece by piece. By morning the village knew she was back. What they didn't know was why. Adanna woke to the sound of chickens scratching in the yard and the faint crackle of a cooking fire. The sheets smelled faintly of sun, but the room felt strange, too neat, too staged, like someone had prepared it for a guest, not a daughter returning home. She washed quickly, tied her scarf, and stepped out into the yard. Mama Chioma was crouched over a pot, stirring, her eyes flicking up for just a second before returning to the food. "Good morning," Adanna said. The reply came flat. "Morning." A few minutes later her father emerged, leaning on a stick. She helped him sit under the mango tree where the air was cooler. They spoke briefly about his health, but his voice grew tired. He waved her off. "Go and greet the neighbors," he said. "They've been waiting to see you." Adanna stepped through the gate and into the square. The morning bustle was in full swing, women pounding yam, men repairing fishing nets, children chasing a ball made of rags. Eyes followed her wherever she walked. Some curious, some cautious. She started with the elders. Uncle Nana, sitting under the mango tree in the square, greeted her warmly. "You came at the right time," he said. "Your father's mind is sharp in the mornings, but the evenings, they take him." "People change with age," she replied. He shook his head. "Not like this." From him she learned something new. Obioma had been visiting the compound long before her father's illness. Always on business. Always leaving quickly. At the well she found Mama Ozioma, the midwife who had known her since birth. The old woman's eyes softened when she saw Adanna. "You've grown into your mother's face," she said. "But your eyes, those are your father's." They spoke in low tones. "Be careful," the midwife warned. "Some wounds in this village never closed. Some people will smile at you while their hands are already digging your grave." By afternoon, Adanna had walked through half the village, listening more than she spoke. She heard the same name again and again, Obioma, but never tied directly to her. Always in fragments. Always in whispers. As the sun began to set, she returned to the compound through the back path. Near the fence she heard voices, Mama Chioma and a man. "If she learns what paid for this marriage," the man was saying, "everything unravels." Mama Chioma's reply was cold. "Then we make sure she never learns." Adanna stepped away quietly, her face calm. Inside a storm was forming. Revenge isn't loud at the start. It's quiet. It's a smile they believe, until it isn't. The next morning Adanna changed her tone. She greeted Mama Chioma warmly, even offered to help in the kitchen. The older woman hesitated but allowed it. Together, they chopped vegetables in a silence broken only by the scrape of the knife on the wooden board. "How's business in the city?" Mama Chioma asked finally. "Good," Adanna replied. "The kind that teaches patience." She caught the quick glance the woman gave her, a mix of curiosity and calculation. That was fine. Let her wonder. Later, Adanna sat with her father, reading from an old newspaper while he nodded along. When Chibik, her half-brother, returned from school, she helped him with homework. She praised him for getting answers right, joked with him when he got them wrong. It wasn't an act for him. The boy was innocent. By afternoon she was walking again, visiting more people she hadn't seen in years. At every stop she left a small gift, sugar, cooking oil, a few crisp notes. "For old times," she'd say. People remembered generosity. Generosity made tongues loosen. From these visits, a clearer picture began to form. Obioma was more than a trader, he was a lender, one whose loans came with strings. Some strings pulled at debts, others at secrets. That evening she returned to the compound and found Obioma himself in the yard, speaking to Mama Chioma in low tones. He looked up when she entered, tall, broad-shouldered, with a smile that didn't touch his eyes. "So this is the daughter who's been gone," he said. 10 years, Adanna replied. "Long enough to see people change." They held each other's gaze for a moment longer than necessary. Mama Chioma broke it by forcing a laugh. "Come, let's sit and eat." They ate under the mango tree. Conversation stayed polite, but every word felt like a chess move. Obioma asked about her business. She asked about his trade. He said he was helping the community. She said she believed in paying debts, in full and on time. When the meal ended, Obioma stood. "We will talk again," he said. Adanna smiled faintly. "We will." That night, as she closed her bedroom window, she saw a shadow in the yard. It was Obioma, speaking to someone hidden in the darkness near the kitchen. Her father's voice. And then the words that made her heart go still. "What? I will tell her nothing. But you promised me she would never know she isn't my child." Truth can be more dangerous than lies, especially when it's about who you are. Adanna lay awake long after the voices in the yard faded. Not his child. The words replayed over and over until they became heavier than the night air. She thought back to every moment in her life when her father had gone silent instead of speaking. Every time he had looked away when she asked about her mother's family. Every gap in the stories he told. At dawn, she rose, dressed quietly, and left the compound before anyone was awake. The streets were still damp from the night's dew, the air cool enough to carry voices further. She walked to the outskirts of the village where Mama Obioma, the old midwife, lived. The old woman opened the door with a knowing look. "I thought you'd come," she said. Inside, over a pot of steaming herbs, Adanna asked her directly. "Was my father, my real father?" Mama Obioma hesitated, stirring slowly. "Your mother loved you deeply," she said. "But love is not the same as blood." "Tell me the truth," Adanna pressed. The old woman sighed. "You were born in secret. Your mother came to me at night, already heavy with child. She never told me the man's name. Weeks later your father, the one who raised you, claimed you as his own. No questions asked. But there were whispers, that the real father was someone powerful. Someone who could not be seen with your mother." "Who?" Adanna asked sharply. Mama Obioma shook her head. "I don't know. But there's a letter. Your mother left it with me the night before she died. I was told to give it to you, if you ever asked." The old woman shuffled to a small chest in the corner, unlocked it and pulled out a folded piece of paper, its edges yellowed with time. Adanna's hands trembled as she opened it. The handwriting was her mother's, neat, curved, deliberate. She began to read. But before she reached the second line, footsteps crunched outside. A sharp knock rattled the door. Mama Obioma's eyes widened. "That's Obioma," she whispered. "Hide the letter, now." Some people knock on a door to visit. Others knock to warn. The knock came again, louder, sharper. Mama Obioma motioned frantically for Adanna to hide the letter. She folded it quickly, slipped it under the hem of her wrapper, and adjusted her posture so it wouldn't show. "Come in," the old woman called, her voice steady. The door swung open. Obioma filled the frame, his broad shoulders blocking the morning light. His smile was thin, but his eyes scanned the room like he was counting what he saw. "Mama Obioma," he greeted. "I hope I'm not disturbing." "You're standing in my doorway, aren't you?" the old woman said dryly. "So speak." Obioma stepped inside, his boots tapping against the floor. He glanced at Adanna with a practiced politeness. "Ah, the prodigal daughter. We seem to keep meeting." "I'm catching up with people who matter," Adanna replied evenly. He chuckled softly. "Good. People forget their roots when they leave too long." His gaze lingered on her for a fraction longer before shifting to the shelves behind Mama Obioma. "I came to check on the old mother here," he continued, "and to remind her that some things are better left untouched." Mama Obioma didn't flinch. "I've lived long enough to know which stones are dangerous to turn." Obioma smiled faintly, then stepped closer to Adanna. "And you," he said quietly, "should be careful where you dig. You might find something you wish you hadn't." For a brief moment they locked eyes. Neither blinked. He turned to leave, pausing at the door. "Oh, and Mama Obioma," he said without looking back, "next time you have a visitor, remember walls have ears." When the door shut, Mama Obioma turned to Adanna, her voice low. "You think you have time to plan your revenge," she said. "You don't. That man, he's already moving against you." Before Adanna could answer, a shadow passed by the window, heading in the direction of her father's compound. The fastest way to learn the truth is to listen where you're not welcome. Adanna left Mama Obioma's hut the moment the shadow passed the window. The village paths were alive now, children chasing each other, women shouting over the pounding of yam, men arguing about the price of palm oil, but she moved fast, her mind fixed on the compound. By the time she reached the gate, she could already hear voices. "Oh, Urgent. The door to her father's room was shut. She walked quietly to the side of the house, past the mango tree, where the thin mud wall had a small gap near the window. The same gap she'd once used as a child to pass a stolen mango to her cousin. Inside, Mama Chioma's voice was sharp. She's asking too many questions. Obioma's tone was colder. And you're giving her too much space. You should have kept her at the square, greeted her politely, and sent her away the same day. She came with cars and men, Mama Chioma hissed. You think I can throw her out now without the whole village talking? Then keep her distracted, Obioma said. Make her believe you want peace. Feed her small stories to keep her from the real one. There was a pause. Adanna could hear the creak of her father's bed, a sign he was awake and listening. She deserves to know, her father said weakly. No, Obioma snapped. The moment she knows the truth, the promise we made is finished. And so is everything you own. Before Adanna could hear more, the crunch of footsteps came from behind her. She turned, and found Chibik standing there, eyes wide. Sister, he whispered, Mama said you should never come here, when they're talking. And then louder from inside the room, Mama Chioma's voice. Who's there? Adanna pressed a finger to her lips, signaling Chibik to stay silent. His small eyes darted between her face and the closed door where their stepmother's voice still echoed. Who's there? Mama Chioma called again, sharper this time. Adanna acted quickly. She stepped out from the side of the house and into the open yard, brushing dust off her wrapper. It's me, she said calmly, loud enough to be heard. I was checking the mango tree. The roots look weak. The door creaked open. Mama Chioma peered out, her face tight with suspicion. You should be in your room, she said. And you should be cooking, Adanna replied, her tone light, casual. Our guest might be hungry again. For a moment, their eyes clashed, a silent duel neither wanted to lose in front of Obioma. Then Mama Chioma forced a laugh. Ah, true. I'll see to it. She slipped back inside. Chibik tugged at Adanna's hand and pulled her toward the far side of the yard, where the old chicken coop leaned against the fence. I hear them all the time, he whispered. Adanna crouched to his level. What do they say? They talk about debts. And about you. Mama says you don't belong here. But Papa, he defends you when he can. Adanna studied his face. The boy wasn't lying. His innocence made the truth pour out of him like water from a cracked pot. Do you want to help me? She asked softly. His eyes lit with curiosity. Yes. Then listen carefully. Whenever they talk, you stay close. And you tell me everything. Not some things. Everything. He nodded hard, gripping his ruler like it was a weapon. I'll watch. Adanna smiled faintly. Good boy. That night, as she sat writing notes in her small leather book, Chibik slipped into her room. His face was pale, his voice trembling. I heard something, he whispered. Mama said, if you keep digging you'll end up like your mother. Adanna froze. Her pen stopped mid-word. Her mother's death had always been a fever. But now, it sounded like something else entirely. Adanna's pen hung in the air. Chibik's words repeated in her mind, you'll end up like your mother. Her mother's death had always been spoken of in hushed, vague terms. A fever, they said. A sickness that swept quickly and left her father broken. But something in the way the boy said it, the fear in his eyes, told her this was not the full story. She closed the notebook and set it aside. Go to bed, she told him softly. And don't tell anyone what you told me. He nodded, clutching his ruler tight, then slipped out of the room. All night, Adanna turned on her mat, replaying memories. Her mother's sudden weakness. The way people avoided details when she asked questions as a child. The faint arguments between adults when they thought she was asleep. By morning, she had made her decision. She went back to Mama Obioma. The old midwife opened the door before she even knocked. Your eyes are your mother's, she said quietly. I knew you'd return with questions one day. Adanna didn't waste time. Was it really fever that killed her? The midwife stirred her pot slowly, the smoke rising in curls. People prefer simple answers. Fever is simple. Poison is not. Adanna's breath caught. Poison? Mama Obioma nodded. The night before your mother fell ill, she argued with your stepmother. Loud enough that neighbors whispered about it. By morning she was weak. By the next day she was gone. Too quick for fever. Too cruel. Adanna's fists clenched. And my father? He believed it was sickness. He was told it was sickness, the midwife replied. And he wanted peace more than he wanted truth. She lowered her voice. But the poison didn't come from your stepmother's hand. Someone else provided it. Adanna's heart pounded. Who? The old woman looked away. That name was never spoken near me. But I know this. After your mother died, Obioma started visiting the house more often. Before Adanna could ask more, the midwife froze. From outside came the sound of footsteps. Heavy. Confident. A man's voice called from the yard. Adanna. Come out. Your stepmother wants you at the compound. Now. It wasn't a request. It was an order. Adanna stepped out of Mama Obioma's hut into the bright afternoon sun. The man waiting for her was one of Obioma's boys, broad-shouldered, his shirt clinging to muscles built from farm work, his eyes sharp with the confidence of someone who feared nothing. Your stepmother sent me, he said flatly. Adanna's face betrayed nothing. I know my way back to the compound. She walked ahead, her wrapper brushing the dust, her steps deliberate. The man followed at a distance, like a shadow, making sure she didn't disappear. By the time she reached the compound, Obioma's car was parked by the gate. The sight made her lips curl faintly. So this was no summons from her stepmother alone, it was his hand guiding it. Inside the air was thick. Her father sat on the bamboo bed, leaning against pillows, his face pale with exhaustion. Mama Chioma stood near him, her arms folded tightly across her chest. Obioma occupied the stool closest to the bed, his presence dominating the room. Ah, Adanna, he said smoothly as she entered. We've been waiting for you. She kept her gaze steady. I didn't know I was expected. Mama Chioma's voice cut in. There are things that need to be made clear. This is still your father's house. There are debts here. Responsibilities. Adanna's eyes flicked to her father, who looked down, avoiding her gaze. His silence said more than words. What kind of debts? She asked. Obioma leaned back slightly, smiling as though he was enjoying the performance. Your father borrowed heavily when the farm failed. Fertilizer, seeds, medicine, all of it came from me. I was generous. Adanna's lips curved faintly. Generous people don't send men to summon daughters. His smile thinned. Respect, Adanna. You've been gone too long to know the ways of this home. Your father owes me, and when a man owes, his whole household carries the weight. Mama Chioma added quickly, that's why we need you to cooperate. Show some humility. You live in the city now, you know how these things work. Don't shame us. Adanna walked closer, stopping by her father's bed. She placed her hand on the wooden frame, her eyes never leaving Obioma's. I don't mind debts. They can be paid. What I don't tolerate is secrets. The room went still. Her words cut sharper than a blade. Her father's hand twitched against the blanket. His lips parted as though to speak, but Obioma cut him off. You should focus on helping your father live his last days in peace, not digging up old dirt. Adanna tilted her head slightly. Peace built on lies doesn't last long. Obioma stood then, towering over her. Be careful, girl. You may have money and cars now, but this is my ground. I decide what peace looks like here. The silence that followed was suffocating. Mama Chioma's face had gone pale. Her father coughed weakly, but no one moved to help him. Finally, Obioma straightened his shirt and walked toward the door. We'll talk again, he said. As he left, Mama Chioma gave Adanna a sharp look. You're stirring fire in a house already burning. Then she followed him out. Adanna turned back to her father. His eyes were wet, his face etched with guilt. She was poisoned, wasn't she? Adanna asked quietly. Her father's lips trembled. His voice cracked when he whispered, I should have stopped it. Her father's confession hung in the air like smoke. I should have stopped it, he whispered, his voice thin, trembling. Adanna leaned closer. Stopped what? Tell me everything. His eyes darted toward the door, as though afraid it would open at any moment. Your mother, she argued with Chioma that night. Loud, too loud. Words about you. About how you were treated. By morning she was weak. Too weak. And Obioma? He broke off, coughing violently into a rag. Adanna steadied him with one hand, waiting until the cough subsided. And Obioma what? Her father's eyes glistened. He came to me. He told me not to question. He said it was fever, nothing more. He said if I wanted this family to survive, I should let it be. His voice cracked. I was a coward. I chose silence. Her heart tightened. She wanted to press him, demand names, details, proof, but his breathing grew shallow, his chest heaving with effort. She realized the weight of years of guilt was crushing him in real time. You knew it wasn't fever, she said quietly. I knew, he admitted, tears sliding into the lines of his cheeks. But I thought protecting the family meant burying the truth. I was wrong. The room went still. The only sound was his labored breathing and the faint rustle of the mango leaves outside. Adanna's mind raced. If Obioma had been involved in her mother's death, it explained the visits, the hold he seemed to have over the household. But why? What was his gain? Her father opened his mouth again as if to speak the answer. His lips moved slowly, shaping a name. Before he could finish, the door banged open. Mama Chioma stormed in, her eyes sharp and accusing. "What are you telling her?" she snapped, her voice cutting through the air. Adanna didn't move. She didn't flinch. She held her father's hand tighter. "Finish what you were saying," she told him. But her father's face had gone pale, his eyes wide with fear. He looked at Chioma, then at Adanna, torn in two. His voice barely rose above a whisper, "It's not safe." Mama Chioma's eyes flicked from him to Adanna. She gave a thin, deliberate smile. "Your father needs rest. Leave him." Adanna rose slowly, her eyes never leaving her stepmother's. The silence between them was heavier than words. Adanna left her father's room with slow, deliberate steps. She didn't want Mama Chioma to think she was shaken, though inside her chest, anger and questions burned hotter than the afternoon sun. She returned to her small room, sat on the edge of her bed, and opened her leather notebook. On the fresh page she wrote 3 lines. "A mother's death, not fever. Obioma involved. Father knows more but is afraid." She tapped the pen against the paper, thinking. Confrontation would only close mouths tighter. If she wanted the truth, she needed to be patient, clever. A soft knock pulled her from her thoughts. The door creaked open and Chibik slipped inside, his small eyes wide with worry. He carried his schoolbook, though it was clear he wasn't here to study. "Sister," he whispered, "Mama is angry. She says you'll destroy the house if you keep asking questions." Adanna pulled him inside quickly and shut the door. "Do you believe her?" He hesitated. "I don't know. But I hear them when they talk. Mama and Obioma. They don't know I'm close. They say things they think I don't understand." Adanna leaned forward. "What things?" He shifted nervously. "They say your mother was stubborn. That she threatened to tell people something. And that she had to be removed." His voice dropped on the last word. Adanna's blood ran cold. "Removed? It was no fever at all." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Listen to me, Chibik. From now on, when they talk, you listen. Every word. Then you come to me. Don't tell anyone else. Not even Papa." He nodded quickly. "I will." "Good boy," she said softly. That night, Adanna stayed awake long after the compound had gone quiet. From her window, she could see Obioma's shadow leaving through the back gate. Mama Chioma stood there watching him go. Adanna gripped her notebook tighter. They thought she was still the helpless girl they threw out years ago. They didn't know she had returned with patience, money, and the will to see everything crumble. The next afternoon was quiet in the compound. Her father was asleep, the heat pressing down heavy, and Mama Chioma was in the kitchen. Chibik slipped into Adanna's room, his chest rising and falling quickly like he'd run. His ruler clattered onto the floor as he shut the door behind him. "I heard them," he whispered. Adanna sat up straight. "What did you hear?" He looked around nervously before speaking. "Mama and Obioma. They were in the backyard near the water drum. Mama was angry. She told him he promised she'd be safe if she did what he asked years ago. Obioma told her to stop worrying, that the dead don't speak." Adanna's breath caught. "He said that." Chibik nodded. "Then Mama said something else. She said your mother ruined everything when she found out Obioma was using Papa's farm to hide his own dealings. She said your mother threatened to tell the elders. That's why." He stopped, lowering his eyes. "That's why she died." For a moment, the room felt too small for the weight of his words. Adanna gripped the edge of her stool. The picture was becoming clearer. Her mother had discovered something tied to Obioma's power and money. And for that, she had been silenced. But one detail stuck sharper than the rest. If her mother had planned to tell the elders, then there had to be proof. Words weren't enough. Proof was the only thing that could have made Obioma afraid. Adanna leaned close to Chibik. "Did they say anything about where this proof might be?" The boy shook his head quickly. "No. Only that it was dangerous to bring it up again. Obioma said if anyone searched for it, he would know." Her mind spun. If proof existed, Obioma had been guarding it for more than 10 years. But secrets that old always leave cracks. That night, as the compound quieted, Adanna sat by the window, her notebook open. On the page she wrote, "A mother discovered Obioma's dealings. Threatened to tell elders. Killed before she could. There must be proof." She tapped the pen slowly, her eyes fixed on the darkness outside. The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the occasional croak of frogs by the stream and the distant cry of a baby in the village. The compound was asleep. Even Chibik's breathing from the next room had softened into steady rhythm. But Adanna lay wide awake. Her mother's letter, Obioma's threats, her father's half-confession, they pressed against her chest like stones. Proof. If her mother had threatened the elders with something real, then that something was still out there. And Obioma would be the one guarding it. She rose quietly, tying her wrapper tighter around her waist. With soft steps she crossed the yard, heading toward the gate. Beyond it, parked like a watchful beast, sat Obioma's car. The moonlight reflected faintly on its polished body. She crouched low as she approached, her heart thudding louder than her footsteps. At first she only circled, studying. A man like Obioma would not leave evidence in plain sight, but arrogance often made people careless. She ran her fingers lightly along the seams of the doors. Locked. She peered through the window. Papers lay scattered on the passenger seat. Too many for a casual visit. She tried the boot. It clicked, not fully locked. She inhaled, lifted it an inch and froze. Inside was a small wooden box. Its corners tied with a strip of cloth, as if someone had tried to keep it closed. Her pulse quickened. She leaned closer. But before she could lift it, the crunch of footsteps sounded behind her. Heavy. Slow. Adanna lowered the boot silently and slipped into the shadows by the compound wall. Obioma appeared, carrying a lantern. He walked straight to the car, muttering to himself, his face dark with suspicion. He circled it once, then placed the lantern on the ground, opened the boot and lifted out the same wooden box. He cradled it in his arms like something precious, then whispered under his breath, "No one must ever find this." And then he walked back toward the house, the lantern light swaying with his steps. Adanna's breath steadied in the darkness. She had found the first crack.